Hello everyone, in this video tutorial we're going to look at Ableton's drum rack and show you how to create your own kits. Following on from the tutorial last week where we use loops to start coming up with ideas in a session view, we're going to add in one of the loops from my sample packs and then build some drums around that loop. A reminder that you can download my sample packs from my website for free. The link will be included in the description below. If you are a big fan of my samples, please subscribe to my channel as I will be releasing more free videos and free content in the future. I hope you do like the samples. So when you download the samples, first thing you want to do is add a folder. I like to arrange my samples in their own folder, but it's completely up to you how you like to arrange your samples. But for this video I've just included it in a folder here, so add the folder and download the samples. There's two sample packs you can download. There's one where it's full of analog kick drums, and then there's another one where I've just created different loops and one shots from my Model Cycles drum machine. So the first thing we need to do is make sure you've got your template set up. So I've actually deleted the audio tracks. We did look at the beginning template last week. I've deleted the audio tracks out and I've just added in one loop here. So the next thing I want to do is go to drums and drag in a drum rack. Just a little tip for you, if you press this little arrow here, this is your info box. So if you hover over anything, it will explain the different features in Ableton Live. So when the drum rack's loaded, you'll see there's 16 different pads. This is where you can drag your individual samples, and this has been kind of recreated by the looks of it from the famous MPC. So you can drag any audio file into here, and then this will load up a sampler for you to use. So the first thing on the left, if you come here, there is macro controls. This allows you to assign parameters so you can use different settings and create variation with your samples, but that's more of an advanced feature. We're not really going to explore that today. Then below we've got the show hide macro variations, and this allows you to show or hide devices. So this is also, as well as dragging samples audio on here, you can actually drag in instruments on here, but again we're not going to be using that in this. We're just going to be focusing on audio. Then below, this allows you to add your own audio effects chains in here, so you can add reverbs and delays, but again we're not going to really do that in this video because it's more of an advanced feature. We're just going to take a look at the basics. So now we've just looked at the kind of beginning things of the drum rack. We're going to start to add in some samples. Another thing you can do is you can have up to 127 samples in here, which is a lot. So sorry, 128. So let's start first by adding in some samples. If we come to the Northern Sound samples and just go to one shots, I'm going to add some kick drums in. I'm going to add a few just so I can filter through whilst I make the actual samples and just see which ones I like. Quite like that first one. It's like a 909. Quite like that one. And I'm going to select one more kick drum, but this time from the analog kick drums here. Quite a heavy one. I'm going to add that one in as well. So next thing I'm going to add in is some claps. I quite like that one. And then some snares. Quite like that one. Oops. If you actually drag a sample in by accident and overwrite one, if you press Command and Z, that'll allow you to undo it. So I'll just drag this one in, snare 4, and then hi-hats. Let's get a few of the closed ones. and one open one. That one. Let's get a cymbal in. That one. And then let's get some percussion in. Get some weird percussion from here. Let's get some weird sounds in. Okay, so now I have built my drum rack. First thing you can do, I will save this, by the way, and you can download this, so you can have this to just load up into your Ableton. So if you press save, this will now save in your user library. So I'm going to type in model cycles samples. Now, even though I've done and saved this, you might want to resave this, because I'm actually going to show you how to edit it a bit more. I've loaded the samples into this as a simpler instrument, so you actually have two samplers in Ableton. You've got a simpler and a sampler. So we're focusing on the simpler. It's really good, it's updated, it's got some really cool features. And the best thing is it allows you to look at your waveform and you can edit the sample. So I just want to make sure all of these samples are playing right at the start. So you bring this, the wave head, so all of them are playing right at the start. So now I've edited all these. The next thing we want to do is start to program our samples in. You might just want to save this and just make sure you overwrite the one that you originally done. So if I just listen to a loop I've got in here, and if we double click in here, this allows us to create a MIDI clip. So now you can see we've got all the individual samples which are played on the piano roll. Now these aren't played in pitch, they're just played as their specific one-shot sample, so you can trigger them. Now when this loads up, you will see this is set as what we call 1 bar of music. So the length is here, so it's set as 1 bar. So we've got 1 beat, 2 beat, 3rd beat and the 4th beat. Now I'm just going to go over some really basic kind of music theory. So we've got a semibreathe, which means it is one note which lasts for 4 beats. So if I was to program in a semibreathe, there's a semibreathe, so that's 4 beats, but that's too long for a kick drum. So if I press play on here, this clip, you can hear it's lasting the whole 4 beats. So then what we also have is we have a minim which lasts for 2 beats. So we're not going to actually program anything in that's going to last for 2 beats in this, so I'm not going to use the minim, but we are going to be using mainly crotchets, which means 1 beat. So here's 1 beat, so this is a crotchet, and then here's the next beat, there's another crotchet, another beat, and then another crotchet. Now we have 4 crotchets in 1 bar of music, so we've got 4 beats. Let's listen. So it'll go 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. So the next thing we're going to add in is a clap which will land on the 2nd beat for 1 crotchet and on the 4th beat for 1 crotchet. So if I add the clap in, and I'm going to extend it out so it's going over a crotchet 1 beat. So now we're starting to get kind of our basic drum beat going. Now if I want to change that kick drum, if I am not really a big fan of that sound, I can hover over it, and if you press up, now I really like this kick drum, but it is quite sub heavy. So the next thing you want to do is come into the kick drum sample, and we can, if you bring this release down and the sustain, and then bring the decay back up, That's better. You can hear how it's shorter. I will do another video on ADSR, but I'm not going to go too much into it there. But if you want to just change how long your sample is, play around with the decay, sustain and release. So now I've got this in. The next thing I want to do is add in a hi-hat. Now we have something else called a quaver, which is a half beat. So the quaver for this one is going to go in between our main crotchets. So for half a beat, we are going to have in a hi-hat here. So you can see it's half the value of this kick drum. Now if you hold Alt, that'll allow you to copy this and bring it across. So we press play. Again, just a reminder, selecting them and just pressing up and down allows you to listen to different ones. Now that's placed on the off beat as a quaver, which is a half beat. And finally, we're just going to use our final note value, which is a semi-quaver, which is a quarter of a beat. So to program some semi-quavers in, if you double click on here, and we're going to create a groove using the closed hi-hats. I'm also just going to introduce another little feature. So if I just press play, you can hear there that these two are playing at the same kind of what we call velocity. So they're hitting at the same velocity. What we want to do is we want to change the velocity of another one, and that basically means that this one is going to hit softer than the first one. Now that would be like if a human was playing an instrument. We want to add in that human element. So if we select these again and hold Alt to copy across, and then again hold Alt, or another shortcut you can use if you hover over it and press Command and D. Now we've got that in. Those hi-hats are playing on semi-quavers, which means quarter beats. So they're at 1/16. So 1/16 of a bar. So now I'm going to add some snares using some quarter notes, some semi-quavers on the offbeat. So and again, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to edit that snare. And then I'm just going to add some other little percussion in. Now obviously this is going over one bar of music, this is getting quite repetitive, so the next thing we can do just to change some variations is if you press duplicate, we can now, what I've done is deleted the cymbal out as well. I'm just going to delete that snare out there but add one in here. So again, I'm going to duplicate it one more time, and this time I'm just going to add in a little snare roll here. So I'm quite happy with that. That's going over 4 beats. I might even duplicate it and just add even more variations over 8 bars. So this is playing over 8 bars rather than 4 bars from before. And one final touch I'm going to show you in this video is just adding some groove. So what groove is now I've just programmed these in, like I said before about the human touch. So at the minute this is sounding quite robotic because I've programmed this in a computer, so it doesn't sound like a human has played this instrument in live. So we can add some groove to replicate humans playing the drums or playing instruments. So if you come over to this section here, it says groove, and click on the little circle, and we have an option to choose quite a variety of different grooves. Now you might be thinking, what does eighths and sixteenths mean if you're looking at these? Well, this is exactly what we were discussing before with our note values. So if you wanted to add groove to 1/16, you are adding groove to quarter notes, which is what we are predominantly using. So obviously this is set to a grid of 1/16. If you were to change the grid to 1/8, you'll see the grid has changed here, and that is now set to half beats, quavers. But we're not using quavers mainly in this, we're using 1/16 quarter beats. So we want to make sure this is set to 1/16, as this is how we're going to add in our groove. So the next thing I'd do is type in MPC. It's got some really famous MPC grooves, and I'm just going to show you a really extreme example so you can hear it. So if I press play, and on groove, press this, type in MPC, and I'm just going to drag in the 1/16 74. So you can hear that's like a really extreme one. It's a bit too much swing, so let's just add in 61. That's much better. It's not the groove's not as obvious, but it's still there. That's without the groove. Let's redo. That's with the groove. So it's just added that final swing, that final groove. I hope this video has helped you. If you like this video, please comment below, subscribe or like my video. I will be adding more content next week. Next week we're going to look at how to create a bass line on top of this and how to start building the next part of the track. We will be mainly looking at Ableton's instruments rather than VSTs. Thank you everyone.